Hello again, this is Toby from Toby's Urban Sketch, and just bring you another video based on an Instagram challenge. This one's a definite challenge for me. It's called hashtag Draw Matt and Doug's Boats One. Matt and Doug, whose Instagram accounts are in the description, both fantastic artists who are exceptionally good at drawing boats, and it is not something I'm exceptionally good at. So let's have a go at it. This is not going to be a 10-minute challenge because it will take me a lot longer than that, I think. And we're going to focus mostly on the pen work and just adding a little bit of interesting colour at the end. I suppose we can justify this because it's currently October, which is Inktober. So let's see how we go. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button and subscribe. It's a huge support to my little channel. So I'm going to cheat, not that it's cheating, I'm going to use a pencil first. The reference image is at the bottom, as ever, in the description, so you can find what I'm attempting to draw here. What we've got is a boat, which is foreshortened and in all sorts of awkward perspectives at the front of our image, and that's why I'm just going in with the pencil first, because I'm not confident that I would be able to deal with that perspective first time. And if I do, that's great, and I'll be able to prove it because I'm filming it. So I'm just starting with the top, and when we're doing this, we have to just really check which way the lines are going, because the perspective is really awkward. It's all over the place. So I can already see a bit of a problem. So I'm gonna just rub this out a little bit. But one thing which can help is if you just pop your pencil against the image, or in real life you hold it at arm's length, like hold it out, and you can just see what angle is a given line going, and then you can bring it down onto your image, and I can see that this bit of the boat comes out, which is really unexpected to our eye. Whereas the horizontal is going like that, but then very quickly it curves around, and the end of the end of this line is like this. So actually I need to get this curve going out and then around very quickly, and that's better. I had it too wide before, so it made the boat look like it was tilting towards me. And then same thing here. This is a bit easier. It's just a smooth curve, and it doesn't have to be perfect at all. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just showing you ways that I try and keep it sort of accurate-ish, enough that we can make sense of it and create something that we enjoy looking at and enjoy creating, of course. So there's also the top of this to take into account, and inside the boat's a little bottle. Try not to draw too hard with the pencil because I do want to rub it mostly out. There's lots of interesting stones and things here, so we'll get the idea of that. I think this actually curves even more, like that, and then there's a bit there with a rope going off. We can work that out more precisely a bit later. And then, just for fun, there's even more boats at the back, and they're like, I'm just marking the front and the back, and then because it's sat on the sand, it curves down, but then it's basically flat. What we can do is actually to make things a bit more geometric as well, so we can just do these straight lines. It's then got a funny little shape like that at the back. And again, it's just, I say shape because that's all I'm doing. I'm looking at shapes and looking at angles. So the angle of this is like that. Then there's a rectangle, another sort of rhomboidy rectangle, which is like at that angle. So if I just measure it properly again, this is more like that. And it comes down, and the roof is like there. So just measuring and looking and You know, it doesn't have to be perfect by any means. It's got to be interesting. Sometimes if it's too obviously wrong, it goes from being interesting to just looking weird. And that's the reason for doing the measuring and things. So I can see that I've made this boat a bit too tall, but I'm not going to change that. It doesn't really affect the end point. And then we've got another boat which sort of follows that line, comes down here. It's very complicated inside, so we just get the vague idea of what's going on. Then there's another boat which is sort of more on its side, so we can see a lot of the inside. So it curves around like that, and then there's a raised area. And that'll do for the penwork on the boats. We've got some chains coming down, which we'll do something with the pen. Got some lines going up there. We'll just get the perspective on them a little bit better. Again, we can just measure it. So they should be more like that. Not measure it, but I suppose we're measuring the angle. So using the pencil again on the reference image to just bring it across. We've got the pier coming in. And there's a few like ladders and things. And these almost like pyramids going up. That's fine. And going across is the sea here. And it cuts back in there with some mountainy cliffs going up. And that's enough for the pencil. So how long did that take? Quite a long time, 5 minutes. But that's all right. I knew this was going to take a bit longer. It's not, you know, boats are, they're smooth, they're curved, they're structures I'm not used to sketching out. And so it takes me a little bit longer. I don't have all the shortcuts. So you're watching me deal with something in an organic way, if you like. So just going to start again by sketching in our main bits using the reference image still, which lets me just use these pencil lines as an idea, but also correct them when I think they're a bit skew-iff compared to what they should be. So I might change the height of that boat, for example. And here, I think it's gone a bit low, so I'll just bring it up. But still just keeping those fun, sketchy, gestural type lines. There's a little red stripe which comes in about here. And then we need to give this a bit of shape, the lip of the boat. There we go. And just get the bottom of the boat in there. And again, these are the directional lines which just show you that this is a vertical surface, this is a horizontal surface. Okay, then we'll move on to our next boat. So I didn't draw in that there's some buoys, or buoys, depending on which side of the Atlantic you're from. And we'll keep that fun geometric shape. So one problem with the boat might be that I actually made it too short as well, which is why it looks a bit too tall. And that comes down more like that. And I think that shape looks better, which is great. So I used the pencil lines, but I still checked my reference, and using them both together without much stress, we managed to get something which is probably more realistic. And then there's loads going on in here. So we don't need to clarify what all these details are, just getting the simple concept that it's a busy boat with lots of bits of rope, and then there's this idea of a structure going over the top with a couple of arms, and then on that structure there's a series of, I don't know if they're antennas or what they are, but there's a lot of stuff happening up there. And that's fine. And then we can move on to the next one. This needs to come down a bit, so we can base it again on our pencil line, but not stick religiously to it. Has a bit of a lip too as well. And then there's this, like, we'll resolve a bit more of the detail. So we've got this kind of metalwork, and then I think a cabin, and again we've got stuff going up, a little line coming across, and all we're doing is looking at shapes and a bit of texture as well, I guess. As this, I'm just going to draw the cabin in first, because that to me is the hardest bit to place. And having done that, I can draw the outside of the boat around it and then get the shape of the bottom of the boat in as well. And that is the most awkward perspective, done much more easily than the others. So let's add in these chains. So sort of semi-continuous lines. Trying to get the angle about right to show this one's not under any tension, but these two are under a bit of tension. This is a rope, so it's got a different texture. So I've not done the little circles. Then let's move up to here. So I got this angle a bit wrong as well, but that's fine. Wouldn't really matter if I hadn't changed it either. Get these vertical lines in, and then coming down here there's like some stairs. Presumably this is very low tide, which is why the boat's from sand, and these stairs are used to come off the pier, I'd guess. There's another bit of stairs here before these semi-pyramidal things, and then looks like a crow's nest, as in a crow's nest from a boat. But you get the idea. And there's a ladder here as well. Just these little fun textures which add a bit of interest to what we're drawing. Now we'll try and get this C in about the right place, and then get the bits coming across as well. So it's like a little inlet here, which gradually disappears. So these distant hills just be little lines, and then we can put much more firm lines in here, and then there can be another one in the foreground, just getting the idea of them disappearing off. Right, so one more thing to do with the little pen, I think. So this is a 0.3 Winsor Newton, which is probably my favourite size for sketching initially. It's very similar to a 0.1mm in other brands. For whatever reason, the Winsor Newton one seemed to be a bit smaller. So just getting a few sort of rock shapes in, and then also just a few just quickly sketch lines to introduce some perspective, to link things together. We can have some rocks sort of more obviously standing up, and they can have a bit of shadow. Another one here, maybe this one's a bit flatter but still standing up. And so next we will move to a 0.5mm pen, and we're just going to bring out a couple more of these details. And as we do this, and then when we rub away the pencil, our image will really clarify itself quite a lot, I think. Well, I'm sure it will. Unless I go wrong, of course. Although there is no wrong. There's only happy accidents and experiments. So just getting some of these outlines a bit bolder. And the same with these. So just key lines, bits, interesting points. Like these boys are interesting, so we'll make sure they're in there. And these lines are definitely interesting. Some of the stuff going up here is good to get in. Just adding some more fairly random features to this boat. because it really is a busy boat in the actual image. And as we get further away, we'll just do less and less with this bold pen. This, I think, needs bringing forwards. Say bringing forwards, because adding a bold line to something in a 2D image like this does bring it forward up into the foreground. And we can get some of these coming in more obviously. Okay. And then we'll just get some more of these sort of random textural lines and the sort of slightly less random ones, which are these rocks, or the idea of rocks. They're sort of suggestions of uneven ground. And as they get further away, they get certainly smaller and less obvious what they are. Now we just do a few lines here which join our boats together. That tends to, so joining things together tends to sort of just simplify things. Alright, so just going to start rubbing away some of the pencil marks. I'm starting away from where I've just put the ink, but the ink's very quick drying, and I'm not too bothered if it smudges a bit. And you'll find that what looked a bit messy and unclear is suddenly, excuse the camera wobbling, suddenly a much clearer image. And now how else can we enhance this with a bit of pen work? Well, if we go back to our 0.3, or even a 0.1, so this is a really thin 0.1 we're going to go with actually, we can start adding in shadow with just simple hatching. So the underside of this boat's certainly in shadow, so we'll add that, as is behind here. And just changing the direction of hatching in different areas because it contrasts that these surfaces are pointing in different directions. And just letting the hatching die away there. The hatching's great for adding ground shadows as well. We can do the same here. And shadows for objects or people on the ground really sort of, well, it grounds them. It makes them look much more real, much more 3D. Suddenly they're an object interacting with the world, not just an object which happens to sort of float, or we're not really sure how solid it is. These are just some of the lines of the boards of that ship, and then a little bit of the name of that ship. Add some shadow where they meet, a bit of shadow to the underside of this boat. And then windows are always good things to add some contrast to. And then if we back it up here, and feel free to be as loose or neat or tidy as you like with this hatching. You don't have to hatch with lines, you can hatch with circles or any shape, or dots. Pointillism, I think it's called. You can do amazing stuff with that if you have a lot of patience. And a few more ideas of the rough ground, just linking things together. And there we go. I think that's actually quite a pleasing little sketch. So the next stage is to add some colour. Although one of the reasons they put this up, I think, is because of the slightly amusing name of the boat, which is Titty McGee. So that needs to come on, of course. So how are we going to add a bit of colour to this? Well, we're not going to add too much, but let's start with the key colours. So, the boat at the front is blue and red. So we'll just start with the red, and I'm gonna call it semi-neat. So just using my size 8 brush, I'm being too gentle there, just gently get the red in there and around the letters, because they're red in the image. And then there's a few other little splashes of red here. We can make, this has got a splash of red, we can make the whole bottle thing red. And where else is this red in our image? It's also in the boys, this whole boat here. Little touches on top. Some of this stuff is red. Okay, so that, even just with that, it's come to life a little bit. Then this is a sort of cool blue. So I've got a chromium blue here. Chromium cerulean here. Which I've almost run out of in this little palette. This is a very handy little palette. It's by Etcher. And I did get it, I should say, through one of my demos I did with them. I don't use it that often, but it's handy because it's so small. You can just put a few colours in there, and I can just sort of leave it here at work, whatever, and just always have something on hand. Does mean you run out quickly though, of course. So there we go, that's that blue in. There isn't blue elsewhere, but I always say, like, don't just use a colour in one place, so just touches of that same blue. Quite important for me personally, I feel, to add in elsewhere. And then we'll get some Payne's grey, so that's going to go on the outside here. This boat's got big splashes of the Payne's grey in it, as is this one at the bottom here, and this one at the bottom. So we're still being semi-neat, starting to get the idea of some shadows in as well. The pier at the back is a kind of slightly warm grey, so I'll get a bit of my raw sienna and just add that to some Payne's grey, and you get that sort of earthy colour coming in, which I think we can then use more watery and just use in our landscape as well. As we come further forward, this landscape gets more obvious as well. And I don't mind this bleeding at all. Not at all. As a lot of fun. And we're here to have fun. And we can go over these colours again and make them sit where we want them to, if that's what we want in a bit. Let's just get a bit more of that warmth in the foreground. So a bit more of that sienna. A bit more dark in here. So I'm just playing with the same colours, moving them around a bit. Okay, and that is pretty much layer 1 done, I think. If we feeling a little braver, we could add a bit of sky in as well. But it's pretty dark. I think I won't add in some sky, but I might add in some horizon going up here. And then I'm just going to blow on it, just to give it that effect of something going up. And we'll do the same here as well. There we go. So there we haven't left the sky empty, and a few splashes will also show that we know that the sky exists. Okay, it's still a little bit wet, but I'm going to go straight away. Oh, wrong colour, that's orange. I have to do a new little well with the red. I'm going to stick with this size of brush as well, just because it's what I normally do, to be honest. And we'll just go over these red areas and just layering paint. The sort of glazing effect increases the intensity. a couple of splashes. Get these dots back. They'll bleed out a bit again, which is fine. There's quite a lot of warmth in this boat as well, so we'll just add a touch in there. And bring out some more shadows. So this is really watery Payne's grey, which can just come in on these areas which are definitely in shadow. But we've already added a bit of shadow with our line work, but we can do a bit more. And a bit more Payne's grey. So really bold shadows can really, again, just lift things forward. Add a few taps in there. The shadows will be darkest at the right at the edge of the boats, at the bottom of the boat, sorry. And then to the pier here. Some splashes in there. Right, so how are we looking? Looking okay. Just going to let that dry briefly and then see what else we can do. Okay, so now I think the first thing that you notice is that the intensity of red is pretty nice, but the blue doesn't quite match it, and perhaps some of the shadows on the boats don't quite match it. So they're the things that I'm going to focus on. To get a bit more of our cerulean. Ooh, really having trouble getting out of this well. Note to self, if planning to use a colour, top it up before the video. So the front of the boat is where the most intense blue is, but if we just go over the whole lot and just add a little bit more pigment to the front and just get a bit of that intensity elsewhere, maybe even up here, touches in, we're just adding little touches in places, little splashes. Okay, and then I'm going to get this Payne's grey a little bit more intense, still very watery, you can see. And we'll add some more shadows in areas where they should be. Some of these bottle shapes. Buoys will have shadow on one side, under here. Just layer over our shadows here as well. Just getting a little bit more of that shape that we expect to see in places. Just helping where we've done this pen work, we can help add even more. And on our closest, and maybe even on our more distant hills. Sorry, I'm muttering to myself a bit there. I think this shadow's good already, but we can just vary it by adding a bit to these rocks, and these rocks which we said were standing up can have shadow coming off them. And down this guy. And then so that's dried enough that it can take a little bit of extra shadow as well. So all I'm going to do is just sweep my brush along one stroke, and there we go. So this boat is now definitely more shadow. Now that this is darker, we can see that actually we can make the shadow underneath it darker, and that's what happens. If you darken something, suddenly you find that somewhere else might need or can take or be enhanced by a bit more darkness. Okay, I think that will do. We're just doing a quick sketch, so we don't need to overdo it. I will pop my little signature in the corner. And that's all done. So this is a boat sketch. It's Draw Matt and Doug's Boats 1. As you can tell, there's a few in this series. We just focused on some really simple colours on top of a more thought out pen sketch. And I even cheated with my pencil at the beginning. But just by using simple measuring and lining up of angles and using pens, pencils to measure whatever, we're able to take a scene which is way out of my comfort zone and make it both quite fun, in my opinion anyway, and also believable, also in my opinion. But there you go. I'm the one talking to myself, so for me, my opinion matters the most at the moment. If you also enjoy it, please do let me know. And if you can like and subscribe to my channel, that would be a fantastic help to my to my burgeoning little YouTube channel. Thank you for watching and have a good rest of your day.